welcome to my kitchen. I'm Steve, and on this episode of Cooking with Love, I'm going to be showing you how to make an Irish shepherd's pie, or cottage pie. Now, the cottage pie originally came from Scotland, and it consisted of ground beef, vegetables, and it was topped with a layer of sliced potatoes and baked as a casserole. After about 80 years in Scotland and England, it was introduced to Ireland. And the Irish people, instead of using ground beef, they use lamb. And instead of sliced potatoes, they use mashed potatoes. So a traditional shepherd's pie consists of ground lamb with vegetable casserole, and it's topped with a layer of buttery mashed potatoes. However, in today's usage, shepherd's pie refers to the pie whether it's using beef or if it's using lamb. On this version, I'm going to show you my wife's family's recipe, and it will be using ground beef, but you can use the exact same recipe and substitute ground lamb instead. All right, let's get started. The ingredients we need to make our shepherd's pie is first ground beef. I'm using 85% lean. We have some beef broth. This is bone broth. Our vegetables are going to be carrots, celery, onion, and peas. In order to prepare these vegetables, I'm going to peel the carrots and cut them into cubes. I'm going to slice up the celery, dice the onion. We're also going to be using some dried rosemary, thyme, bay leaves, and salt and pepper for taste. In order to thicken the gravy that we're going to be making, we're going to use some all-purpose flour. And then for the mashed potatoes, we're going to be using russet potatoes today, some heavy cream, and butter. All right, let's start putting this together. The first step is that I'm heating up some canola oil in this pot, and we're going to be frying our ground beef. I'm just going to let this come to temperature. And next I'm going to be adding our ground beef. And we want to make sure the ground beef is browned throughout. The beef is browned through and through. I'm just going to season it now with a little bit of salt and pepper. Mix it thoroughly. All right, and now I'm just going to take it off the heat. And we're going to remove this beef from the pot and put it onto a paper towel to dry and remove some of the excess oil. Now we're going to put the heat back on. Now we're going to fry our onion, celery, and the carrots. And we're just going to stir them just until they start to soften a little bit. I'm going to season the vegetables with some salt and pepper. The onions are starting to become translucent. I'm going to add the flour next. And we're going to cook down our flour. The flour has been cooking for 2 or 3 minutes. We're going to add our beef And we're going to scrape the bottom of the pan, remove any of the brown bits and cooked flour, get it to go into the broth. Our vegetables have come to a simmer. I'm going to add the other seasoning now, the bay leaves, the thyme, and the rosemary. I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to put the heat on low, cover it, and let it simmer for about an hour. While our vegetables are simmering, I'm going to bring this pot of water up to a boil, and we're going to boil our potatoes until they're tender. And I also turn on the oven at 450 to let it preheat. Our potatoes were tender. I strained them. I'm going to return them to this pot. And we're just going to let them cook on low heat for a couple minutes. And this will help dry the excess moisture away. The vegetables have simmered for an hour. I added the meat back to the mix. And we're going to cover this again and let this simmer for about another half hour while we prepare our mashed potatoes. We're going to be adding the butter, the heavy cream, some salt, and some pepper. And now we're going to mash. You want to mash them until they're nice and smooth. Some people like to use a handheld mixer, that's fine. Our meat and vegetables are done simmering. We're going to transfer this mix to our casserole dish in just a minute, but first we're going to have to find our bay leaves and remove them. We don't want a person getting a bay leaf on their spoon. The bay leaves are removed. We're going to stir in our peas. And then we're going to transfer this to a casserole dish. I have my casserole dish on a cookie tray that's lined with aluminum foil. It's very common for this to spill over a little bit while it's baking. And next I'm going to transfer our meat and vegetable mix to the casserole. And then we're going to put our mashed potatoes on top. We want to smooth it down into a nice even layer. All right, this goes into the oven now. The oven has been preheated to 450. It's going to cook for a half hour. Our shepherd's pie has finished cooking. I let it cool for about 15 minutes or so, just because otherwise it's just way too hot to eat. It's got a nice golden brown crust. I'm going to give it a little taste test here. Very good. This is perfect for a cold autumn day. Potatoes are buttery. The top of the potato is browned and crispy. The meat and vegetables are delicious. I'm sure your family is just going to love this. My wife's family has been making this for years, and she's made it for me for years, and I decided to share it with you guys. Well, we'll see you on the next episode of Cooking with Love.